Death is a reoccurring theme in the Pokémon universe. These regions all depict death in their own fashion. It's always been a stunning concept to me because, let's be frank, this is a children's game. That doesn't mean children shouldn't learn about the cycle of life, it's the way it's presented. I feel like I've been desensitized to a plethora of things in comparison to being a child. The older I get, the more I realize that death is just another chapter of life that we all come to at some point. The way I see it, it's a celebration of life. How was their death recognized? Traditionally, when I think about it, I see a casket in a graveyard. So does every other Pokemon region, except for the Kalos region. As a kid, walking into Pokemon Tower for the first time feels so dark and grim. I remember feeling scared learning about the emotions behind losing someone that you love, especially in a dramatic way like how Team Rocket murdered several Pokemon in the tower. But on the contrary to Lavender Town, Sevi Islands offers a relieving segment of the celebration of life. South of the Memorial Pillar, you'll find this little island that serves as a grave site to an Onix named Tectonics, who is loved by its trainer. I love that there's a metal coat left here for you, as if it was left by Tectonics' trainer, in the hopes that you'll raise an Onix of your own. These two concepts piggyback us into the Kalos region. You see, the entire theme of Pokemon X and Y is catered around the cycle of life and death. Xerneas being life and Yveltal being death. They follow the yin and yang concept. When this is broken, balance is restored once again by no other Pokemon than Zygarde. 3,000 years ago, an ultimate weapon was created by AZ. This weapon is said to have been energized by life forces, specifically sacrificed Pokemon. The same weapon can still be found here in town, and after a battle with Lysandre, the weapon is fired off that leaves a giant crater in the ground. While the destruction is terrifying, I find peace in knowing that those dead Pokemon souls can now rest peacefully. And Johto the Brass Tower, aka Burn Tower, was once struck by lightning, which caught fire and then was put out by the rain. In the process, 3 Pokemon died. Ho-Oh granted these new Pokemon life, turning them into legendary beasts. This introduced the idea of reincarnation, which was a completely foreign concept to me. Ho-Oh birthed tragedy into new life, and I think we can all learn a thing or two from this. To me, I see this as a way to show that although misfortune may enter our lives, in return, you receive new purpose. In my favorite region and generation, Hoenn, at Mount Pyre, everyone seems to grieve their loss. Rightfully so, because death doesn't always have to be celebrated. It's tragic, and Gen 3 does a great job at emphasizing this in a realistic tone. Some of these people mention their tragedies, like memories of my darling Skitty. My eyes flood just thinking about it. I remember this eerie feeling I got in my stomach, that one day I'm going to lose my family, cats, even myself. It's honestly really tough to stomach that reality, and there's never a good time or way to prepare for it. Mount Pyre is compared in a couple of other spots, like Sinnoh's Lost Tower or Unova's Celestial Tower. I don't necessarily agree with this comparison. To me, Mount Pyre is this dark and tragic site where people reflect on their past memories. Lost Tower feels much more grim, especially knowing that Team Galactic is taking and killing people's Pokemon. Specifically, a Roughneck is found grieving his Pokemon, which was killed by Team Galactic. Celestial Tower feels gruesome, but there's relief at the end of the Dark Road. That relief being the bell at the top of the tower. Alder rings the bell to comfort the spirit of his first Pokemon, Volcarona, who died of an illness. I love this idea because both you and your lost soul can find solace in the bell. Everything we discuss at this point all revolve around how the trainers are affected by their loss. But what about the Pokemon? They endure so much pain and tragedy just as we do. In Alola, Hau'oli Cemetery is filled with the tombstones and flowers. At nighttime, there's a woman you can find riding a Machamp. She's paying respects to her husband who tragically died in an accident. This Machamp used to belong to this man and was involved in the same accident. In a last-ditch effort, the husband recalled Machamp to its Pokeball just before it suffered the same fate. As a result, it refused to enter its Pokeball due to survivor's guilt. Pokemon do in fact share the same emotions and tragedies just as we do, and this is a perfect example. The only other time I've seen another Pokemon so moved by a horrid experience in regards to a cemetery is Cubone in the Pokemon Tower. Both of them share similar but different feelings. Machamp lost a trainer dear to them, while Cubone lost its own mother. While they list different things like a trainer versus a fellow Pokemon, they share the same sentiment. In this cemetery, you'll normally find people who are here for their Pokemon. Trainers will battle you in the hopes that they'll forget about the sadness, and I feel their pain. Battling these trainers gives me an important role in their healing process, and it almost feels like an honor to do so. This will also give the griever a chance to make new memories with the Pokemon battling for them. A chance to start fresh and look forward to the future. Life is tragic, but equally appreciable. In Akala Island, Memorial Hill offers a burial site for the old mighty families of Alola. This is near the ruins of life. The belief is that people request to be buried here since it's close to where the guardian deity, Tapu Lele, resides. It's said that the ruins are a place where life is born. I'd like to think that the people request to be buried here with the intent that their deaths and bodies will generate new life to Alola. I think it's such a neat detail and is very telling about the culture here. On the contrary, the ruins of Hope, home to Tapu Fini, are said to be the end of life's journey. One little aspect of this area is that you can find a Zygarde cell. This is used to assemble a new Zygarde, referring back to the small detail from earlier. When the cycle of life and death are broken, Zygarde is used to restore balance of the cycle again. So far, we've covered a few concepts and perspectives of death. One concept that I've always thought about but we haven't covered yet is Pokemon hurting humans. Game Freak likes to paint the perspective with this giant umbrella that all humans and Pokemon live in harmony. While this is true in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, this isn't always the case. In Area Zero, there's a bunch of cool dialogue in the abandoned lab huts that you'll find within these blue books. One of them states that when research was being done by the expedition team, a giant Pokemon named Great Tusk or Iron Treads, depending on what version you're playing, attacked and mortally wounded someone. I'll just keep it a buck. They fucking died. This sets the tone for Area Zero, showing how unpredictable and undomesticated these monsters are. And true to their nature, they're ancient, so they have no experience with humans. Comparable to how deer and wolves are a little more receptive to humans than they would have been 100 and 200 years ago. A little detail I find interesting related to the Area Zero murder incident is that according to an article from a May issue of A Culture magazine, I quote, "A leading theory holds that Iron Hands was once an athlete who became mortally wounded but was kept alive by being made into a cyborg." I absolutely love this theory because you could honestly assume that they saved the person in Area Zero and turned them into a Pokemon as a last-ditch effort. I mean, I'm not sure if that's the most ethical solution, but it's definitely a solution. They are researchers and scientists. I mean, hell, they even made Mewtwo from human and Pokemon DNA. So admittedly, Pokemon, a children's game, taught me how to appreciate death. I feel like I've learned over time that it's simply a part of nature. It makes it easy to accept this fate when you realize that these deaths bring new life into the universe. And I hope that all the Battle Pass kids out there can learn a thing or two from this. I'm sure there's a bunch of other intricate details that I missed, but I would like to leave the rest of this interpretation up to you all. There's no right or wrong answer, everyone has different perspectives. That's the art of these concepts. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.